You know, there's a lot of speculation out there. Are we at the bottom? Who knows with all the foreclosures coming on? I'm not going to profess and tell you that we're absolutely at the bottom, but what we're going to do this month on Talk to Terry is we're going to look at some of the local trends going across the North Atlanta pocket, and then we're going to look at some of the factors in there of some great things that can help stimulate some purchases through the end of the year, and we're also going to look at what is really going on with jumbo mortgages and what effect that could have on some higher end purchases. So remember, we don't know if we're at the bottom, but there's one thing for sure. Our world's turned upside down. I tell you what, I think I speak on behalf of most realtors. We're tired of having the world upside down. And I think when you look at the North Atlanta trends for this last month, you might be seeing that there are some signs we could definitely be at the bottom. Pay attention. I think you'll be interested to see what's going on. Now, there's some really interesting trends going around the Atlanta area, but we're going to look at Atlanta and then focus on the north side of town first. The interesting thing is the bottom of the market would basically be defined as when supply and demand start to come in check. So has supply gone down, and where's demand coming with the pending contracts? Well, for the city of Atlanta as a whole, all counties combined, the average for sale homes have decreased 23.2% from May of 2009 compared to May of 2008. Pending sales for all of Atlanta counties are only off by 4.2%. That's a phenomenal increase over what we've been looking at. Now we look across the north part of town, you have Cherokee County. What has their inventory done? It's decreased 16.7%, and their contracts written for May went up almost 1 full percent. You go down to Cobb County, their inventories dropped 18.2%, and their pending sales for May dropped just 1% below where it was of May 2008. Gwinnett County, 26.3% reduction in the inventory available for home buyers today. And their pending sales have risen 4.1%. Now here's the thing. You got to pay attention to this because as those pending sales get very close, what we got to pay attention to is the practices of lenders. If those contracts that were written can't close, we might see that the closings are not meeting what the pending contracts were, and that could be a problem that we face down the line. But here's the important thing. What we see is the pending demand of your typical buyer has increased, and now we're reaching a normal type level as compared to last year. Great sign. However, in Forsyth and Dawson County, we have seen a reduction in the inventory that's there, but also in the pending sales. Again, we saw at least a teens decrease in Forsyth. It was a 16 to 17% decrease in Forsyth on the pending contracts, and in Dawson County, we lost 34% of the pending sales. Now, what I want you to realize, there's a lot of government action that's taken place that's going to help stimulate, possibly, sales from here to the end of the year, and that's what we're going to cover next. So let's talk about some of the government programs and what they're trying to do to stimulate the home buyers from getting engaged in the game today. First, the state of Georgia has come up with their own plan in addition to the overall nation's implementation of the $8,000 tax credit. The state of Georgia has come up with an additional amount of $1,800 in a tax credit for any purchases from now through the end of November. Now, the important thing on this is if you hear tax credit, it's the same thing as cash. So what I want you to realize, we're not talking a tax deduction. We're talking a tax credit. So if you owed $1,800 to the state of Georgia, you would basically have a $600 payment each year that you wouldn't have to pay. So they will let you take that $1,800 and spread it out over 3 years and take a $600 tax credit each year. That's not bad. That's $600 cash. Now when I first heard that, I kind of snickered and thought $1,800. And you think of that as typically a deduction, but the reality is that's cash in your pocket. Free money, not bad. So that's the state of Georgia. In addition to what the government had originally come up with was the $8,000 tax rebate for a purchaser that was a first-time home buyer. Now, what they did is they've added 2 variables to that. One is they considered it a tax credit this year, so that would help stimulate more buyers to take advantage of that. And then most recently, May 29th, they signed into legislation that tax credit can now be used as an additional down payment above the 3.5% or towards your closing costs. So what they start to do is loosen up the requirements so that hopefully more people would use it and purchase more homes. Now this was aimed for the first-time home buyers, and their goal was that they'd buy some of the people that had their homes on the market so they could then buy a move-up home to the next level and start the whole chain moving forward. Well, the plan hadn't worked exactly as they had thought. They've loosened up a little bit, and in my sales meeting the other day I predicted that in the next 60 to 90 days the government would come up with a new plan that would open that up more so we could have further reach with it. Well, this morning at 4 a.m. across from the Associated Press, we got a news-related article that talked about Johnny Isaacson beating at the door again, trying to get that $8,000 tax credit raised to $15,000, and as opposed to just being for first-time home buyers, it would be open to anybody that purchased a home, and there would not be an income limit as there currently is with the $8,000 tax credit. Now I want you to remember, tax credit means credit. It's not a deduction. It is cash. So if this could happen, and you could buy that by buying a home by the end of the year, imagine how many people might get in the game by having that cash come back to them and be able to utilize that. Pretty phenomenal tool. So if they can make those adjustments, you might be able to see some good stimulus in house purchases. That's what we got to look for. But you know what's going to really limit things? If they can't release the jumbo loans and make them easier to get for people, we're going to see that $500,000 and up price point really have a tough time in succeeding in today's market. Now we're going to talk loans in this segment, and the first thing I'm going to talk about are jumbo mortgages. Now right now, jumbo mortgages are very difficult to get. And so homes that are really $500,000 and above have really been hit hard with the number of buyers that are out there. And here's why. One, most of your loans out there that are above $417,000 are what they call a jumbo loan. Those rates are going to be higher than any loan that's below $417,000, and the requirements to get them, first you have to be putting down 20%, and then the lenders want you to have a credit score of 720 plus. Well, that takes out a whole lot of people that would still be in the good range of being able to qualify for that home under normal lending practices versus the highly strictened lending practices today. So if they can help get that money flowing out to the jumbo loan people, loans above 417, you might just start to see a higher percentage of those high-priced homes start to move again. And right now, because there's not that many buyers out there, there are some phenomenal deals that are going on with that. As a matter of fact, here in Forsyth County, there was a home that was priced at $639,900. The home was taken back by the bank, and it was sold out on the open market for $370,000. Now, I'm not going to say that these are your average deals going on, but let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not out there engaged in the process, you'll never be able to capture a phenomenal deal like that and come out really on top given the market situation that we've got today. The other thing I want to talk about is last month I talked about interest rates being so low. They're at 4.5% when we shot this last month. Well, today they're right about in the mid-5s, somewhere between 5.375 and 5.5. So what makes a home affordable or not? It's called cost or price. And the cost of a home is not just the price of a home, it is the mortgage interest rate that makes it very affordable for most families today. So the key thing is you don't want to sit there and predict that rates are going to always stay where they are. Even at 5.5 or 5.375, they're historically a phenomenal rate, as you can see by this chart right here. Incredible even at that. But if by chance the rates dip down any more than that, don't wait, because you never want to try and predict what they're going to do. They could jump up in 1 month's time very quickly, as we just saw. So, great price, great interest rates equals the right decision for you. Remember, we might be at the bottom, we might not be. We'll pay attention, we'll deliver the facts as they are. I'm not saying we're at the bottom, I believe we're somewhere right around there, but it looks like the signs are starting to really shape in that direction. Supply has come down dramatically in every single one of the northern counties. Even across Atlanta, they've come down significantly. And pending sale contracts are starting to match last year's numbers. When you start to see those things happen, it definitely shows strong signs that we could be at the bottom. We'll have to pay attention to this and see what's coming up next. I tell you what, I'll do anything. I think it's phenomenal out there. I'll do push-ups, I'll box, I'll even hang from a ceiling. I don't care. I love this business. I love what we're doing. It is a phenomenal opportunity for those that are willing to take advantage of what we're going through. And remember, this isn't for everybody. But is it for you? Well, you'll only find out if you get in there and you get engaged in the process and see what opportunities are out there. And you know what? Next month we'll keep looking. Are we at the bottom or are we not? Only time will tell. Talk to Terry signing out. Sincerely with passion. See you next month.